And then Howard, do we still have you?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, it just hit 6:40, so I think it'd be a good time to just go ahead and start off. We're going to start off with a little bit of introductions here. And Howard, go ahead and just give us a brief background on you. What's your role? What type of industry are you in? What's your specialties?
Sure. Currently, I'm with Acuvia. It's the only healthcare only consulting firm out there. We've got a ton of data that we have and sell around pharmacy and medical claims. My role is technical solutions director, basically a glorified sales engineer. So I go out and on the sales path and do the techie talk for the sales folks. Experience with Salesforce. I was dragged kicking and screaming into the world. Had never had any thought that it would get traction when I was with the Anthem, but it did. So uh, it led me into the Tableau analytics side of the house. So we for Tableau analytics there, and sourced all of the or many of the CRM platforms with the data that we had housed within our warehouse.
Great. And Rosie?
So sorry for those of you who have to hear me just do my introduction twice, but I'm Rosalie Flowers. I am a junior Salesforce administrator at a Salesforce customer company called Fieldwire. We do software as a service for construction job site management. So we're providing all kinds of things. If you've ever heard of RFIs or submittals or anything to do with construction, like we're providing awesome job site software for that. So we have two admins and I am the junior out of the two of us. I started in November, so I'm pretty new to the Salesforce space professionally.
Great. And real quick, where'd you come from?
You mean my background before that?
Yeah.
Okay. I was a teacher actually. So I taught for Virtual Virginia for a year. Before that, I was a librarian.
Yeah, I think that's so cool that you completely changed
I did.
Industries, jobs, and everything, and you were able to get into the Salesforce ecosystem. That's awesome.
Thanks. Kind of like you, Keegan, when you mentioned that you were always kind of the techie guy, I've always been kind of the techie person. Like even, in the classroom, I was the person who was always trying out like whatever the new thing was. And last year when I was teaching virtually, we had a student information system we were using, and I was spending like all my time going like, if they just tweak this little thing, it would make our lives so much easier. And now I'm behind the curtain that does the tweaking, which is really fun for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And Gayatri?
Hello, everyone. I'm Gayatri Indran. I'm a solution architect at Salesforce. I work with nonprofits and foundations on their Salesforce implementations. I will say that my ride into Salesforce had been rocky too. Like I moved from the for-profit industry. I worked in the insurance domain, in mainframes, and then I switched careers into Salesforce. I know we have a lot of time, so we'll talk through that journey in a while. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about where we are now. How did you guys end up where you are now? I mean, for someone like Howard, it seems like you've probably always been into tech, or that might have been your goal from the get-go. Rosie, you shared that you used to, be in education. So what was the thing that attracted you guys to your current careers or with Salesforce? Everyone looks like they're thinking. I'm going to go with Howard.
Pick somebody. always lose the draw there. So yeah, I've always been drawn to tech since the days of the Commodore 64. Most people on here probably have no idea what that is, but yeah, way back when, I always wanted to be a programmer. I realized I was not going to be because I wasn't any good at it. So I moved toward the analytic world, dashboards, reports, all that fun stuff. And way back when we were writing our own CRM using Microsoft Access and SQL, when companies didn't have opportunity to use tools like Salesforce. So, from the ground up, I've been involved in the tech and CRM, if you will. But on the slightly different path of, how do I use that data? How do I optimize what I'm doing? How do I make people more efficient at what they're doing versus just, maintaining a CRM?
Right. Now, is it the actual analytics or like the end business goal that you find most interesting?
Well, I like playing with data.
Hmm.
So they come with a problem. I try to figure out how to solve that with whatever technology is available. So the business problems are cool to solve, but I have more fun playing with the data and the tools that we have available.
Awesome. And Rosie, how did you even find out about Salesforce? You were in education, and were you, I don't know, looking for a change, or how did you make this discovery?
That's a great question. So I had heard of Salesforce several years before I had made this leap, and it was one of those things like I heard the name and I was like, oh, I'm not a salesperson. Like it was, I heard sales in the name, and I was like, I don't think that's for me. Um, I was actually when I was a librarian, one of the things I did was like work on our WordPress site. So a lot of that's like a little bit of PHP and building custom themes and that kind of thing, and that was something I just kind of fell into and enjoyed doing. It was a little bit scary, but it was also enjoyable at the same time. I knew after that I didn't really necessarily want to go the web development role, but I loved doing text. So when I found out later on that Salesforce had a lot of declarative options with it, I was like, oh, well, maybe that is something I can do because I enjoy like the logic behind it and all that, but I didn't really want to get super heavy into like coding languages and that kind of thing. So administration really appealed to me. My husband's work uses Salesforce. They're a customer as well. And so I had heard a little bit from him about their Salesforce platform. And I started asking him some questions, and that got me kind of thinking about it again. So when the end of my teaching contract came up and it wasn't something I wanted to continue to pursue, I was looking at what my other options are. I was like, well, I've always dabbled like on the edge of liking tech. So why don't I just like dive into it and see what it's all about? That's how I ended up here.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And Guthrie, I would love to hear your story of how you actually ended up at Salesforce.
I will say that it's a happy accident. Um, I studied electrical and electronics engineering, and then my first job happened to be an IT services job in mainframes. I was completely into mainframes in the insurance domain. I was a developer. I grew to become a subject matter expert there. So I was hands-on developing, but mainframes became an old technology. It's not in the cloud, it's server-based. Like you need to be there in the office. There's so many things that come with it. And I'm a mom of two girls. So with both my children, I decided to take break from work, be at home with them for a few years, and then get back into the workforce. So with my first one, I transitioned back into mainframes, but with my second one, I wanted to use that opportunity to move into a newer technology. And one of my good friends suggested Salesforce. Like I didn't know what Salesforce was when he suggested Salesforce. So I literally Googled Salesforce, and he said, go to Trailhead. And that's the first place I went. And I will say from then on, it's just been like, okay, how do I now make this career work for me? How do I get a job opportunity? Because I don't know anyone in Salesforce. The friend who recommended Salesforce is not going to be able to get me a job in Salesforce, right? So the first thing that I did was I got my certification. I got my platform app builder certification. I used Trailhead a lot, and I had my DevOrg. So I played a lot there. I kind of liked it because it was intuitive. I could, um, apply the skills that I had in the technology space that I had worked on. And I love problem solving. So the platform app builder was more interesting for me than the admin cert. If people are like taking the certs, if you want to get more practical and learn, I would recommend the platform app builder cert. So I did the cert, and then I went to one of the user group meetings like this. So I will tell everyone who's taken the time to come here today that the people that you meet in this user group could significantly change your career path, influence your career path, because I was introduced by my user group leader. Her name is Nikki Gabiet. She was the one who introduced me to two people in the user group for volunteer opportunities at nonprofits. So I volunteered part-time for 4 to 5 months in the nonprofits. And one of the user group person, her name is Daisy Garcia. She's the owner of Imagine CRM, who's it's based out of LA. She recruited me after those 4 to 5 months of volunteering at that nonprofit because she had a project with them. So I wouldn't have met the people who gave me the job or those volunteer opportunities if I hadn't gone to any of the user group meetings. So I will say that the user group meetings definitely get you into the Salesforce ecosystem, and people are nice. People are willing to take a chance more than anyone else outside. So some of the skills that helped are the transferable skills that I brought from my other job, right? Like I had been a BA, I had been a solutions person, I had been a developer. So those things kind of, all of the transferable skills that you have, like definitely help you. But I think showing credibility in terms of your trailhead badges or certification kind of shows your interest and commitment to Salesforce. I think if you have that combination, I think people are willing to help. And I'm so thankful that they did in my case. Thank you.
Yeah, and I love that. I've had a similar experience of it's just such a tight community. The first group I joined was actually out of Raleigh, and I'm here in Roanoke, Virginia, and it just happened to be that their location had the virtual meetings that I was able to start attending, and I've become close to a few people in there. And then, of course, when I reached out to a few people, met a few of you on LinkedIn, just reaching out, it was like we had that instant connection. So it's awesome that this is such a strong community. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's almost like a I don't want to call it cult, but when you're in it, and you know that you're in it, and you know people who are in it. So it's awesome. So in terms of actually developing your career, we're networking with each other, we're enjoying the time, we're making connections. What are some other ways that you guys would recommend in terms of advancing your career, whether it's in Salesforce or just in technology in general? Because for some of us, yes, we got lucky and ended up at Salesforce, but that wasn't necessarily the goal to begin with. So what are the skills and the actions that we need to be focusing on to actually drive our career forward? And I'm going to start with Rosie this time, since I called on Howard first time.
My turn. So as far as skills go, I think it's going to depend obviously like on what direction you think you might source, because there's so many different things you could potentially do. For me, I know part of my interview, like for a junior admin role, they didn't ask me a single question in my screening interview about how to use Salesforce. They actually asked me tons of questions about Excel and formulas and what I knew to do there. So you might be thinking about some like these outside skills that you might want to develop and things that are like Salesforce adjacent. Like for me with data loading, that's something I do quite often. So they wanted to see if I was going to be capable of doing some of those tasks. Other things like soft skills, you've probably already developed them in other roles if you're not already in a tech position, but they wanted someone who was like self-motivated, especially if you're the kind of person who's looking to apply for a remote position. If you can just show like your initiative on things that you've just done on your own, they love that for remote work because there's no one there seeing what you're doing. So they're looking for people who will work well independently and have that self-motivation and drive to get things done without having coworkers, right next to them. As far as other skills, I think anything logic related is really good. You're gonna have to think a lot about how things work and what you would do in situations where there's something blocking you, like how you'll work around it. It happens more than you'd think. So coming up with like working logic puzzles or whatever, anything like that can help you as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Guthrie, what would you recommend?
I mean, I would second whatever Rosalie said, but I think if you're already in IT or if you're in any other domain, I think your domain knowledge has a value. So if you work in the insurance industry, like that insurance knowledge is valuable. Like when you're on the job, people are looking for technology skills plus that domain experience. So your domain experience is not going to be lost just because you're switching technologies. It's a valuable component. So if you're in health, or if you're in insurance, or if you're in retail, that knowledge is valuable to companies who are recruiting. So I would say be confident about the domain experience that you bring. And then in terms of the technology part, I would say it depends on which path you're taking within Salesforce. Like, are you going towards the admin, or are you going as a business analyst, or as you going in as a developer? So I would say, like, if you are a BA in any other technology or in any other industry, you can easily transfer into the Salesforce ecosystem as a business analyst, as long as you understand how Salesforce works, because you already know how to do your job as a BA. So I think it's important to focus on the makeup of your skills, like your 70% of what you already have with 30% of Salesforce. I wouldn't wait until I build 100% of Salesforce skills. Like, give it a shot with whatever you have. I think you will make it.
That's awesome. And Howard, what would you recommend?
Well, I think I like going before these two smart ladies because I will probably sound stupid after going behind them. So
What's
they,
nice
they,
about
they have
being moderators, I don't actually have to answer the question. So
there you go.
yeah,
I'll be moderator next time. So no, a lot of great stuff there. I come at this from maybe a little bit different angle because much of the last 15 years I ran large teams, managed a good number of people. So what I looked for was uh, someone who's willing to be part of the team. Might not have all the right skills. Of first off, the hiring manager is never going to find the unicorn candidate. There's always going to be give and take on that. So you may not check all the boxes. Don't worry about that. Go into whatever position you're looking for and talk about your successes. And those successes can lead you into many different directions. So, teamwork is always big for me. Looking for the person that can fit the team. Then I look for experience. It doesn't have to be, I ran, Salesforce for a Fortune 20 company. A lot of people, like many people on this call, are getting their experience, project work, not for profits, volunteerism. That's still valuable experience. If somebody can show me that they have had 3 or 5 years of doing that, I'll take that over somebody who has a year of experience with a certification. Certifications are really cool, they're valuable, but you have to understand how to use the tools in a day-to-day environment to really apply what a certification can do for you. I think Tony told me once that, I've been doing this stuff for years. I know how to do it, but I just got the certification. Now I know how to do it right. So it takes a combination of those two things. So in a role like this, I do look for both, but I personally give a lot of weight for hands-on experience um, as far as that stuff goes. And for me, networking is absolutely critical. You never know when you're going to take a right-hand turn in your career. So your LinkedIn profile, as many friends and acquaintances as you can have, it's going to help you. They're going to see what you're up to. You can help them sometimes when they need help, they can help you. So you rely on all that. Networking is absolutely critical. Do not get into the mindset of, I've got this great gig at this company. I've been here for 25 years. You might not be there any longer. Your choice or others, but having that strong network is really important.
yeah, that's great. Um, for everyone who is attending and watching, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them up in the chat. We may not be able to get to them right away or at all, but still throw them in there as we go along here. We might be able to get to it or be able to use that as another jumping off topic here. So also, if you've just joined us, say hi. Let us know you're there. We can see your name in the attendees section. But again, just like what Howard just said, networking is so important. So go ahead and get started with that tonight, and just say hi. So in your current role, or even maybe before you got your current role here, what are some fears or challenges or obstacles that you had to figure out how to overcome? Um, let's start with the obstacles that you have to deal with now, or the challenges that you're having to deal with now. Is there anything that comes to mind, and how do you overcome that? Um, Gaither, you want to start?
Yeah. I think in terms of challenges in my day-to-day job, I think um, there's a there's a constant learning that is needed because of the platform that Salesforce is. It's constantly innovating, and there's new features coming out every day. Like, and if you're on the job, like it's better for you to update yourselves and stay current and relevant in the Salesforce space, right? So that is something that I found challenging to keep up to date. Like there's these releases coming out, like you have your day-to-day job, you're trying to get your certs, you're figuring out like it's a mix of everything. So I'll say that's one part that's challenging in my day-to-day job. Like, and even though I'm at Salesforce, I'm a solution art, I have access to resources. I think it's about prioritizing certain things and putting that into action, I guess. So I do struggle with that. Like that's definitely a challenge for me today.
Okay, great. Um, I did have a follow-up question on that, and
Mhm.
that's for someone like me, it's easy for me to look at you or someone like Tony who are actually at Salesforce, and it seems like you guys have made it. Do you feel like you've made it, or do you still like struggle with those feelings of insecurity that I deal with every day?
Um, I will say that I do struggle with those feelings of insecurity. It's never perfect, right? Sometimes we just have to think that good enough is okay, and you're aiming towards that perfection. So I will say that there are struggles. Like, so don't think that just because I'm at Salesforce, I know everything and I can do everything. No, I'm sure that there are people who are much more talented than me who are just not there at Salesforce yet. Okay. So, and I will say that this has been there with me like all throughout all of my jobs, I would say, because today, like I started as an admin, like a BA role, and then I moved into becoming a solution architect. So I will say that when I was a BA, I always doubted, like, am I doing this thing right? And then when I become a solution architect, it's like, am I solutioning this right? Is this scalable? Like, there are questions that you're asking yourself every day at your job that's refining you, and then that's making you better, and you will get there. So, I mean, I at least believe that that's refining me and tuning me. And I will say that my I got into Salesforce because I was recruited by Traction in January last year, and Traction was acquired by Salesforce. So my Traction interview was an hour long interview where I had to like demo with a dev org. So I would say that there are interviews that are tough to crack. There are questions that are asked in the interview to make sure that you're right for the role. So I think your experience will show up in those demos, like, and it'll get you the job that you need. Like, so I would say be as much hands-on as possible. Don't just solve the problems that your client has or your project has at that time. Like, be more aware of what's coming up, what's getting released as new features, and try your hands with it, and then slowly it'll help you get there. So it's never perfect, and good enough is okay.
I love that. Good enough is okay. Hey, thanks for dropping in the comments, Roberto, excuse me, and David Denny just dropped his LinkedIn profile. I think that'd be a good thing for us to all do. Um, so if you want to share, go ahead and drop in your LinkedIn profile, and that way we can connect offline here. And Howard, we'll go with you next.
Uh, Great comments that precede me. My answer changed as I was listening to the commentary there. So I guess my biggest fear today is I don't know everything. I can go into any particular client. I will have no idea what their stack looks like, how they're using it. I mean, three in a row could be Salesforce. They're all using them different ways. I have to accept the fact that I don't know everything. I do try to keep up on what's going on in the industry as a whole, um, but that's about all you can do. You can tread water with a lot of that stuff. Just keeping yourself informed and reading a lot. That's pretty important to me. But you will never know everything, and I'm gonna loop that back to the networking. If you don't know something, you're probably going to know somebody who does. So if you got a strong network, you can plug a lot of your holes. Even with my own company and 90,000 people, networking is exceptionally important. Hey, I need an AI guy. I know who to go to. Natural language processing, go there. Salesforce CRM, know who to go to. So um, networking and reading, keeping abreast, and understanding that you cannot know everything. So a lot of times you can beat yourself up thinking that you should accept the fact that you've got a learning opportunity, and you'll know it the next time. So preaching to myself. So hopefully I'll remember that tomorrow when I'm talking with different clients. So that's a big piece of it.
Awesome. And Rosie?
Yeah, so second everything that you all said, but also, I mean, just remember that imposter syndrome is real. I think I talked to Tony even about it that first meeting we had. I told him I was like, I'm really nervous because I just started, and he's like, I still like there's still stuff I don't know, and I work at Salesforce, so similar to what Gaithries was saying, it's that feeling forever. But being new, I think it's really fortunate. I am very lucky to have a senior admin on the team. I'm not a solo admin, and he's very mentorship oriented. So it took me several weeks to get comfortable asking questions because I was a little bit nervous, like, what should I know kind of thing. And I didn't want to like reveal what I didn't know, but at the same time, I didn't want to like break something, in our org kind of situation. But after a while, I started to realize like he wants me to succeed, and we've gotten to a really comfortable relationship where I can ask those questions. But even in that period of those few weeks where I just didn't feel all that comfortable at talking to him, like I went. I'm a member of Talent Stacker. That's one of those programs out there where you can learn about Salesforce if you're new to the ecosystem. There are several others out there, so that's not the only one. But I reached out to those folks because we have a little alumni network, and I'm like, hey, I have these feelings about these things. I'm trying to get this done, and I can't, figure it out. It's scary to be vulnerable like that. But the reaction back was so kind, and people that had gone ahead of me, that had already been working for a year, were like commenting on my posts saying like, hey, this is what you might want to try. This is how you can get comfortable talking to your boss. This is something you can do in that problem you were having. And now I'm really enjoying being able to like answer some of those questions for the new people too. So don't be afraid, I guess, to ask for help in those situations. I'm trying to think of other challenges. Just in general, knowing business processes, like if you're new to an industry, like for me, I do not have a construction background. And I don't really even have I did some sales stuff like very early in my career, but it's been years. And so even just getting familiar with the sales processes for a software as a service company and their lingo for construction has been a little bit of a learning curve for me. But like Howard was saying with like the networking, you start to get to know people. You'll notice right away the people in your organization that seem really willing to help. And they'll be happy to sit down and explain things to you, and just take advantage of those moments when you get them, knowing that you'll be able to help them in the future because of the knowledge they gave you. So
Awesome. Thanks. Great. So let's see here. I was hoping to get some questions in the comments here. Do you like how you can tell them I'm reading as my head gets closer to the screen here? But we're getting a lot of people sharing their profiles, which is great. I'm loving this. We'll be able to go back here later on, and I'll be reaching out to everyone who clicks. So I look forward to that. And we actually got through some of the questions that I really wanted to ask, but let me give you guys a moment here to think. And what is something that you think we need to know, or some insight that you want to give us to help us specifically with our careers, whether that's continuing our career or starting out in the Salesforce career? Just to kind of touch on some of the news that we've been hearing lately. I know that the people at Salesforce have been affected with some of the layoffs. That's easy to get into our heads. As someone who is new, Gaithry, do you have like any insight, or not about the layoffs, but just about like the future? Like, what should we be thinking about, or what should we know to help future proof our career or help us to the next step? Softball question, right?
Yeah, it is. I I think, I mean, I'm just looking at this from the times that I had to be out of work. I am an immigrant to the US, and I've had visa issues or immigration issues that have put me out of work. Like I had to, like, your visa is ending today, like you cannot work today. And I've been in those situations. So I'm looking at it that with that frame of mind, when someone loses a job, what it is for them. I've been through that, but it's just not like a layoff, right? Like, but it is a layoff for me because the immigration prevented me from working. It was not my decision, right? So I've been in that spot, and I will say that every time I got back in, I think it's the work that you've done in your past job, the connections that you've made, like the managers that you've worked for, the team that you've worked for. The Salesforce ecosystem is so good. It's so tied together that people care. And I would say the last time I had to be out of job because of my immigration issue, my manager was like, just tell me the day you get your visa. Don't worry about your job. So that was an assurance he was able to give me, because I think because the technology was Salesforce and it has the opportunities. So he was able to, even make that statement, right? Um, I'm sure, like, if I was in mainframes, I don't know how many such opportunities I would have gotten to get back into the Salesforce ecosystem. So I would say, like, wherever you are working right now, be present, give it whatever it takes to do a good job there. And the people connections matter a lot. Building your transferable skills matters a lot. Like, and keeping it consistent, right? Like, never lose hope. Or like, you know, every time I got back into the workforce, I'm like, how many days am I going to work? Like, is this visa going to let me be here like after 6 months? I've had these questions, but I think you have to push through, right? So this is such a timing. Like, I will say that the layoff has not just affected people who have been laid off. It's just mentally affected everyone who's hearing about it, not just from Salesforce, from any other company who's people like your friends or family who's been affected by this, right? So I I think I would just stay calm, see see beyond the forest, I would say, and then keep at it. Things will get better. Yep.
The other thing that I really liked what you said is be present. Um, I think a lot of our anxiety comes from looking to the future and trying to predict what we don't even have the ability to predict. Um, and then also, like for a lot of us, for myself included, I have what I call my daytime jobby job, which is what I'm having to do to keep to meet ends until I get to do this thing that I really want to do. But again, I'm in this job. I don't know how um, that will affect me later on. So while I'm there at this job, I need to be present and then make room after that for studying for Salesforce, but then also making sure that I leave time for my family and prioritizing things rightly. But in the day when I'm at the job, I still need to be present. So I really like that. So Howard,
I'm gonna put a little Dave Ramsey on us here. When I changed careers, it was a lot easier for me to do knowing that I had a good number of months saved up. So I wasn't panicked about, holy crap, I've got to get a job in 2 weeks because I've got bills. The best thing anybody can do is to make sure that you have some kind of financial nest egg support, something out there to help with any of those transitions, whether you choose to make the transition or someone chooses to make you transit. uh, that will make it go a lot easier, especially because changing sometimes is, it could be a 6-month process when you're looking for a job to find the right job for you. As far as, some of the stuff that's been happening in the news with layoffs, not just at Salesforce, but at everywhere. If you go back a year or two, people were saying, man, these guys are hiring anybody with a pulse. If you hear that going forward, question if they are overhiring and hiring the right people for the jobs for the long term. I think that's just something that really hit home with me in hearing about all the layoffs recently, because a lot of those companies hiring anybody with a pulse just to fill positions. It's not a sound uh, thing for a company to do, and it's kind of disappointing that a lot of companies did it. But you got to look out for yourself. They're going to look. The companies are going to look out for themselves, so look out for yourself as well. Um, I guess that's the two main things that stuck out to me. Make sure that you have some kind of financial plan, a backup plan. It'll make things a lot easier. It might not be as much as you want, but as long as you've got something, that will be a bit of uh, peace of mind for you.
So it's the financial aspect is important, but in terms of actually battling some of those other aspects, like the emotional doubt, like I'm just going to be real, that's something that I deal with is
Mhm.
a lot of self doubt. Like I'm investing so much time here, all this energy. What if the opportunity actually isn't there? Like, how do you combat that for yourself?
I went to my network. I talked to, again, using your network to talk to people, say, hey, what's going on? Just having the conversations, they will help bring you up.
Mm.
And they'll say, hey, I know this guy. I want you to talk to them. And this is a true story for me. Turned out to be the CEO of a company. He took time out of his day to make the introductions based on somebody that I knew. And we started talking, and he's like, man, I love you. It's like, what? A little awkward. It's like, no, you're great. You know what you're doing. You have confidence in what you can do. And when you hear essentially a stranger tell you that, you're like, hell yeah, I got this. And I met the guy in person just a couple months ago after doing the video thing. And again, self doubts. I'm in a new role. I don't know everything. All of this stuff is coming at me. And he's like reading in my responses, like, don't worry about it. You got it. People are going to love you. So just go with what your strengths are. You might not have all the answers, but be yourself, and it will follow. And if it doesn't, you're probably going down the wrong path.
Awesome. All right, and Rosie, what about you?
Definitely have the same feelings as far as the people who went ahead of me, and just as far as the cushion goes. I wasn't laid off from my job, but I chose not to re-sign a contract, right? So like at the end of June, I was just like, okay, I'm done. Didn't sign a contract for the next school year. And so I decided to devote my time just to learning Salesforce. And that was kind of, it was a pretty big risk, right? And I was sitting there like trying to learn. I'm like, they don't really hire, I mean, they do hire teachers mid-year, but it's not as common. Usually the contracts are over the summer and they fill all those roles. And unless somebody's going on leave or something, you're not going to get a long-term position usually. So it was a little bit of a risk, but having that financial cushion, like Howard said, is super helpful in those moments to let you take that risk. But I guess something else I would say, if you have a role right now or you're getting ready for a role, is to make sure you keep a list of things you've accomplished, especially special projects that you've done. If you've done anything that might stick out to a potential employer, like just like even in just a little journal, or if you use Notion or some kind of document where you keep a list of those things, so that way if you do potentially leave that position, you've got this long list of things to talk about for those next job interviews. I think that's really smart. Keeping those connections strong. Yes, Howard's got his right there. Keeping those connections strong. So like for me, like I felt like I was connecting with tons of people while I was learning because I had the time to do it. And now that I'm in a full-time role, you don't have as much time to devote to networking. But I think it's important to try to like dedicate, like make the time to do that. If you have like dream-in events, if you go to things like this, like make those connections, because you never know when you get to that spot, like if you're out of work, one of those people either is going to like lead you potentially to your next position or just give you the encouragement, like Howard was saying, that you need to just keep going. So
Yeah, let me follow up on that one
Sure.
because I do keep those notes in my leather folder with me at all times. I had a professional resume service help me out to do my resume. That's always a big plus to make sure that you have something that you're confident in, and then expressing your experience on paper that you can very easily submit. Keep your resume up to date. Keep your wins written down and easily accessible so that you can get to them when you need to. You never know when an opportunity is going to pop up. It just happens all the time, out of the blue.
Hmm. And some of those details could be so easy to forget. Like if you can quantify things, that's a really big deal. So if you can say like, this is how many man hours I saved by making such and such automation, or this is how many users in my org were affected by this change that I made. Those are the details that a lot of times for me, if I don't write it down, it's going to be gone. Like I can say, oh, I built a flow, but like that doesn't sound as impressive as saying like what that actually like did for the business. So if you can make note of that while it's still like fresh later on when you need it, you'll have it.
You got to refresh your memory because you're going to
Yeah.
forget all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do any of you guys do bullet journaling? I did that for a while, and it's something where I should get back into, but it is kind of going off of what you guys were saying. I actually had a job come to an end. It wasn't a mass layoff; it was a layoff of one, and I was really discouraged at the time because it was like, man, I enjoyed this job. What happened? And of course, I went on and did something else. But about 2 years later, I looked at my bullet journal that I'd kept at that time, and there had been like all this self doubt that I had, like, man, what did I do wrong? And I was able to go back and look through that journal, and I was able to see everything that I had done. And it was almost like proof to me that I put everything that I could have put into it. And that really helped some of that self doubt that was really lingering with me for a while. So I kind of piggybacked off a couple of things that you guys said that I just want to share. So
No, you mentioned a great part of the grieving process for anybody that goes through the layoffs or rifts or whatever they may be. You're like, why me? I did everything I could. Why don't they like me?
mhm.
Well, first off, who cares if they like you? You got to like yourself first. You have to be confident in what you've done, and keep moving forward, because people change. They want to try different things. They want new people to come in. They may want cheaper people to come in. It may feel personal, but it's not.
Mhm.
So maintain the confidence in yourself. Let yourself grieve. It's natural, but get over it.
No, I love that. Sometimes you just gotta accept the reality of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, this has been an awesome time. I've really enjoyed this. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Is there any last comments or anything that you guys want to say? And it's okay if the answer is no. I'm still hoping that someone would throw some questions in the chat here. I'm not seeing anything yet. Joseph said that he wanted to thank everyone for attending. Um, and yeah, about the community. It's about helping others to benefit your soul. Um, and thank you for your comments on that, Joseph. Yeah, it definitely is all about community.
I'll just throw this out there. I don't know if this is specifically geared towards Salesforce CRM administration, but Salesforce itself is an enormous company. There's CRM, there's analytics, there's MuleSoft and integrations, there's Slack. I don't even know what the rest of the things are out there. You might start down on one path, but there are tons of opportunities across this whole platform to take you in many different directions. So look at all of them. One, you might find that you like one better than the path you started down.
Great. Yeah, and I still want Gay 3 and Rosie be thinking if there's anything that you want to leave us with. But Jackson did have a question here that he sees a lot on Reddit. By the way, Jackson, I'm also on Reddit, part of the Salesforce group or Salesforce channel on there. Um, so hopefully we'll see each other there. But the question is job experience or the certifications more important? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I feel like
Well,
Howard kind of talked a little bit about that, didn't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my perspective on it.
Yeah.
You know, after hiring for many years, but there's people have different opinions, so
Mhm.
That the
it's
experience
both.
is more important.
I can say that.
Personally,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I say personally for me, I think experience is definitely more important. Certification validates that experience, but there are plenty of people out there who believe the exact opposite. So I think maybe the correct answer is both.
And I think it highly depends on what career path you take too. So for me, I was fortunate to be applying for a junior admin role where they weren't necessarily expecting me to be certified. It was like a plus kind of thing. I already had my certification, so that I think helped a little bit to already have that. But at the same time, it wasn't something they were expecting. But those positions don't come up as often. So I could see why getting your cert would be something that you could separate yourself from others, like in the stack of resumes. But at the same time, like say for example, you're interested in consulting. Consultants really heavily rely on certs. There's a partnership with Salesforce, and I can't speak to this as much as someone who works at Salesforce probably could, but having certifications when they're considered a Salesforce partner is a big deal for them. So if someone has a lot of certs, they like that. So I think it just kind of depends on what direction you're looking to go. I'm not saying that's going to get you a job necessarily, but if you're going into consulting, I think they do rely a little bit more on certs, whereas you could be an admin, for years and years and never have your certification, and people will just look at your 10 years of experience and be like, you're hired, because there's not that many people who have that under their belt. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I think it's kind of positioned itself as like a chicken or egg type question,
Mhm.
but this is one area where it can be both at the same time. Um, I don't have my certification yet, but I'm not letting that hold me back from gaining experience or applying for jobs. But at the same time, I'm not letting my uh, goals to achieve certifications, that's not falling by the wayside either. I'm working on both at the same time.
Think about it this way too. College degree. Everybody says you got to have a college degree to do this. Why? You could be a whiz kid with a computer, go off, start writing code, build this fantastic thing. Why would I not hire you because you don't have a college degree? So certifications to me are kind of fall in that category. If you're that good, you can get the certification. But
Mm.
you know, also don't if you don't have a college degree, it's not a showstopper.
Mhm.
I have all of my job postings when I post them, it's or equivalent.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it kind of goes back to we tend to self qualify ourselves out. And so, there's probably a lot of people who see that degree or equivalent experience. And I feel like a lot of people probably latch on to that degree and say, well, I don't have my degree. So, I mean, probably not for everyone, but yeah, I agree with you. So, and I really like this question from Roberto. What's the life like from month 1 to month 3 in a brand new role, and when does it finally start to feel comfortable to you? And Gaithry, we haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Because I work with Salesforce clients, and probably every 7 to 8 months I'm with a new client. I've been in consulting for the last 6 years, so every time there's a new client, it's almost like a new job, right? So it does take um, like the month one is more like just getting used to the team that you're working with more than the technology piece, right? Like understanding what your client needs, like what your company needs if you're employed at a company, like just understanding what what the culture is, what the team is, what role you're supposed to play on the project. Like I think it takes a while to figure that out. Like month one would definitely be like just acquainting yourself to that environment and getting your, just like setting up yourself for success with that team, right? And then month 2 to 3, I would say like you're probably like the second month, you're definitely hands on, definitely building something. Like people are looking at your skills by that point. Like the month one is more like there's room for errors, there's room for, learning and everything. But I think by month 2, like your product is coming to life and people are looking at the work that you do with the project that you're on. So the cooling period is done. Like you really have to be hands-on month 2 to 3. And I don't know if you had like a specific question, but I'll say like by month 2, I'm pretty much settled in with my client. I know what they need, and I'm and it also gives me that time to learn their business process and everything through like discovery and like just the interaction with them. So at that point, I pretty much become a part of their team. Like, it's like my project now, and I'm partnering with you to do this project. You're pretty much there, at least in the role that I'm in, by that point. So if you're an admin or if you're a developer, then you're relying on like your senior admin or your solution architect, someone to give you the guidance to do what you need. And I will say that it just depends on the person that you're working with. Like, I feel that every developer or admin who's hands-on working needs to have some business context. It helps them solution well and fast, and make it more meaningful if they have that context of what that business person needs. So I tend to sit down with my devs or admin to give that context for them so that they know what to deliver, because they're not in all of the business calls with me. So that's how the first 2 months are. I don't know if I answered your question, Roberto, and if it helps.
I thought that was great. Yeah. Because I mean, it also applies to whether it's our first time job or like going into a new role or into a new project.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think just to add on to that, I like to talk a lot, so tell me to shut up if you want.
No,
But
please.
from bringing people on within a a Fortune 20 company, my expectation was 6 months. I expect people to be fully running at 6 months. The first month you're looking around saying, "What the heck?" Right? You're trying to find your computer, how to plug it in, turn it on. You're doing all of that stuff. It's a little bit different than the consulting world, where you are expected to really be up and running in a very short order. But if you're getting into a corporate gig that's going to be a long term place for you to sit, give yourself 6 months to get to that. Okay, I really think I know what I'm doing. I know the people. I know what questions to ask. Because if you're shorter than that, you're probably selling yourself short.
I think, yeah, I agree with, I'm coming from I'm not coming from the consultant side, right? So I'm coming from the admin side. And yes, I'll be at month 3, I think next week, officially. So I'm like right in it right now. Month, there's a lot of like figuring out who's who within the business, business processes, just like Gaithry was saying, like there's quite a few things that you just don't know yet, and it'd be kind of irresponsible to start like building and doing things when you don't even know what it is you're building for. And my senior admin was super smart. He, like, one of my first tasks he gave me was like, I just want you to be in charge of our backlog. So we have a org. And so people can, put in feature requests, they can put in bug stories, anything that they're like having trouble with, or just ideas they have or questions they have. And he's like, I want you in there. I want you seeing the requests that come in. I want you to start like triaging them to people, sizing the tickets, like getting an idea, maybe doing a little background research so that you can figure out like what size, like, is this going to be like an easy 15-minute thing, or is this going to be like a really involved project? And that kind of gave me room to see like what kind of questions and requests we get, who they're coming from, and also just digging around to find out that research of like, is this a big ask or a little ask? Gave me like a lot of context with our org, because that made me like kind of walk around in a way and see like what's in there. So I thought that was a really smart way to get me started. Let's see what else have I had to do this first. A lot of it's like permissions, user management. A lot of times they'll start you with that. Just smaller like tasks, like that kind of thing, are probably like the first tasks. Then as you get comfortable, you can start engaging more with just different stakeholders in the organization, having one-off meetings like, hey, what is it you need on this particular thing? You'll get comfortable with people, and then you can start going from there.
Okay. Awesome. So we're coming up. Actually, it's 7:35, and I want to be respectful of your all's time. I want to thank you so much for being here. But again, we got a couple of great questions in the chats. I want to throw this out there. Well, first, Joseph, yes, was asking if anyone has NPSP experience. He would like to get in contact since he's not able to get any domestic help. He has posted his email on there if someone would like to reach out to him. Just wanted to highlight that. Um, yeah, and then we've all been sharing our LinkedIn profiles here. So I just want to encourage everyone to connect with each other. Also, if you're not already a member of our Blue Ridge Trailblazers group, please just go ahead and join that. Even if you're out on the West Coast, we have 4 in-person meetings a year, but the rest are virtual. So just like tonight, you can join us from wherever. And I'd like to leave us with this last one is well, there's also another question. I don't know that we'll have time to get to it, but was it like, is it better working with a team or working solo in the admin position? That was a good question. But the other one that I want to leave us with is I gotta find it so I actually read it verbatim and not butcher it. Okay, what this is from Raleigh. What's the number one thing someone trying to break into the industry can do? So, more specifically, if they're having trouble landing a junior admin role, what is that one thing that can push them over the edge into that first role?
Um, Keegan, I'll take that. I think see if you can volunteer and build hands-on skills. Like, I think anyone who's looking to hire you, like Howard mentioned, is looking for hands-on skills. When we say experience, that's what we mean. We mean like anyone who can get the job done, right? Like certifications do not validate practical application of that knowledge. So certifications validate that you understand the concept, but I think practically doing the job is a lot different. And I would say any avenue that helps you build that hands-on skills is going to help you land that first job. In my case, it did. Like, I did volunteer with the nonprofits, and I will tell you, it flipped the way that I looked at technology jobs, and it also helped me to figure out this is the domain that I want to work in. Like, I want to work with nonprofits and foundations, and I've stuck with it for the last 6 years, and hopefully I continue that path. But I will tell you that, technology is everywhere today. So if you get a volunteer opportunity, make use of it. There are a lot of nonprofits who have Salesforce. They've bought Salesforce. They have the P10 or like the 10 free licenses that every nonprofit gets. And they just don't have the manpower, like someone to sit at a desk and figure out what it takes for that nonprofit and configure. And it could just be like, I think when I first started with the first nonprofit that I volunteered in, it was just like 4 hours per week. And I would just go in, understand what they need, come back home and sit down and, try to solution and work for it. I think it kind of helped. It kind of helped me, and I think it can be valuable for anyone else who's trying to make it.
How do you find opportunities like that, Guthrie, to be able to volunteer?
There are nonprofit user groups. I don't know if this region has one, but I know that there are a lot of nonprofit user groups. And I know that there are other websites. I think it's called Volunteer Match. And I can try to find those websites and share it back with you, Keegan. Like, there are others that were shared to me when I started the search. So it should definitely live in my personal email. I can go look for it and share that as well. So there's always, I think that if there's a nonprofit near you, I think it's up to you to go initiate and ask them whether they have Salesforce. Like, try to do that, because most nonprofits are running some sort of CRM today. Like, everyone's moving, at least during the COVID phase, they have transferred into the technology space. So I would say look at it from that angle as well. And I know that I can get the websites and I can send it, like, and look for the nonprofit user groups.
Okay,
Or
awesome. And
if
that's
you're
something that we
really
can.
bold, sorry, if you're really bold, find a not-for-profit that doesn't have Salesforce,
Yes.
go in and help set it up for them. They won't know when you're screwing things up, but it'll be valuable experience figuring it out and working with someone, defining what they want to get out of a solution like that.
Okay.
I think I posted too. This isn't a nonprofit, but if you're looking for a backer, obviously costs money, but like Clicked is a program. It's not a nonprofit, but they do offer like they're like quick little like afternoon challenges they do together, or they'll do like team sprints, which you have to apply for, but it's free. So you can apply for it and get on a team. And I thought that experience was invaluable because they actually paired you with several other people who were also learning. And you get some really great mentors in that program that you get a chance to present to and solution and all that. So that's an option as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and so let's put those resources in our community group on Trailhead. That way, that's the central place, and if someone on this call is interested in that, they can just easily go there. So, I want to thank you guys so much for this. This has been awesome. I could keep going, but I feel like, again, just to be respectful of your time, I should probably wind it down. But again, I can't tell you how much this means to us. Guthrie, I mean, to be able to give us insight from Salesforce, that's amazing. Rosie, I appreciate your insight because you and I, like, I feel like I'm just like right there trying to get into that position that you've gotten into. And Howard, I mean, just your experience in the industry, technology industry as a whole, has been great and very helpful. So again, I want to thank you guys so much.
Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I won't probably go through and click on everybody, but you got my name. Look me up, connect, and stay in touch.
All right, great. All right, well,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.